The Vatican, the planet's smallest sovereign territory, encompasses 44 acres of walled land at the very heart of Rome. St. Peter's Square, the Basilica, museums, palaces, and gardens all are contained within a space traversable on foot in a mere hour. Millions of visitors flock here annually, drawn to marvel at Michelangelo's dome, gaze upon the Sistine Chapel, and perhaps catch a glimpse of the pontiff during Sunday Mass. They tread upon marble floors, crane their necks towards painted ceilings, and capture moments with their cameras, utterly unaware of the entire world that lies beneath their feet. A city of the departed, plunging dozens of meters downward. A realm predating the Vatican itself, predating Christianity, predating St. Peter's Basilica. A city the Vatican concealed from the world for nearly 5 centuries, only revealing it when concealment became untenable. To comprehend what rests beneath the Vatican, one must journey back to the very genesis, to what occupied this locale before the Church's establishment. This place was once a cemetery. 2,000 years ago, during the era of the Roman Empire, the site of the present-day Vatican lay beyond Rome's city limits, on the western bank of the Tiber River. It was a hilly, marshy expanse known as the Vatican Hill, or Ager Vaticanus. The land was deemed infertile, its soil clay-rich, with a high water table. Malaria-carrying mosquitoes teemed in the low-lying areas. Yet for one purpose, this location was exceptionally suited: interment. Roman law prohibited burials within the city walls, leading to cemeteries being situated along the arterial roads leading out of Rome. Vatican Hill became one such necropolis, not a modest one, but a vast, multi-tiered burial ground utilized for centuries. Roman burials were far from simple pits marked by crosses. Affluent families erected elaborate mausoleums for their deceased, complete with chambers, frescoed walls, mosaic floors, and carved sarcophagi. These structures lined the thoroughfares like residences along a street, forming entire districts of the dead. Each mausoleum possessed a portal through which relatives would enter to pay respects, leaving offerings of flowers, food, and wine, as Romans believed the deceased suffered from hunger, if not sustained. Some mausoleums featured upper levels and basements, windows, and courtyards. This was not merely a graveyard, but a subterranean metropolis populated by the deceased, yet served by the living. Within this very cemetery, tradition holds, rests the Apostle Peter, one of Jesus Christ's closest disciples, the first bishop of Rome, and, according to Catholic doctrine, the first pope. As per tradition, Peter met his martyrdom in Rome under Emperor Nero, around the year 64 or 67 AD. He was crucified upside down at his own request, feeling unworthy to perish in the same manner as Christ. His body was removed from the cross and interred in the nearest available burial ground, that very one on Vatican Hill. Over time, a modest chapel was erected over his tomb, followed by a church and then a basilica. Emperor Constantine, who legalized Christianity in the 1st century, commissioned the construction of a grand temple on this site, the original St. Peter's Basilica. In the 15th century, the old basilica was demolished, and its successor, the current edifice with Michelangelo's dome, was erected in its place. And here is what transpired. When Constantine commenced building his temple, he required a level foundation. However, the cemetery, with its mausoleums, crypts, staircases, and courtyards, was anything but level. The solution was drastic. Constantine ordered the summit of Vatican Hill to be truncated, and the depressions and unevenness to be filled. The mausoleums were not dismantled. They were simply packed with earth and rubble up to their roofs, transforming the subterranean city into a foundation. Literally, the walls of the dead became the walls of the living. Adjacent to the cemetery, incidentally, stood another structure that played a pivotal role in history: Nero's Circus. Not a circus in the modern sense, but a hippodrome, a long arena for chariot races. It was here, according to tradition, that Nero orchestrated the mass executions of Christians following the Great Fire of 64 AD. Christians were blamed for the conflagration, and Nero turned their punishment into a spectacle. Some were crucified, others wrapped in animal hides and savaged by dogs, and still others coated in pitch and set ablaze, serving as human torches to illuminate nocturnal races. The Apostle Peter, tradition dictates, was crucified in this very circus and buried in the adjacent cemetery, which eventually evolved into a necropolis. When Constantine constructed his basilica, he deliberately positioned the altar precisely above the presumed burial site of Peter. To achieve this, he undertook monumental engineering feats, excavating the hill and burying the cemetery, rather than simply erecting the church on a convenient flat area nearby. The placement of the altar over the tomb held greater significance for him than the ease of construction. This indicates that as early as the 4th century, the location of Peter's burial was identified with sufficient accuracy and venerated to such an extent that the very landscape was reshaped for its sake. St. Peter's Basilica was built upon the resting places of the deceased, and this is not a mere metaphor. Beneath the basilica's floor, beneath the altar, beneath the square, lay an entire necropolis, buried, sealed, and forgotten for 1,500 years. The existence of the subterranean cemetery was always known. After all, the entire purpose of St. Peter's Basilica was its location above the Apostles' tomb. However, the true extent of what lay hidden beneath became apparent only in the 20th century, and its discovery, as often happens, was accidental. In 1939, Pope Pius XI passed away. Before his death, he bequeathed that he be interred in the Vatican crypt, in the subterranean chambers beneath the main altar where many popes rest. As workers began preparing the burial site, excavating the floor of the crypt, they encountered a wall, not the basilica's foundation wall, but another, older one, constructed of red brick with remnants of plaster and frescoes. Beyond this wall lay a chamber, beyond that a corridor, and beyond that, further chambers. The workers had just broken through the roof of one of the mausoleums of the Roman necropolis, the very one buried by Constantine centuries prior. The new pope, Pius, made a decision that would alter history. Instead of sealing the find and forgetting it, which would have been simpler and less costly, he ordered excavations to commence. These were clandestine excavations, unreported to the press, the public, or even the majority of Vatican officials. Pius understood that if the excavations uncovered the tomb of the Apostle Peter, it would be the ultimate validation of Catholic tradition. Conversely, if nothing was found, or worse, if something contradicting tradition emerged, the consequences would be catastrophic. He took a calculated risk. The excavations continued for 10 years, from 1940 to 1950, under conditions of absolute secrecy, further complicated by the Second World War raging just beyond the Vatican's walls. Archaeologists toiled in cramped underground corridors by lamplight, in stifling air, risking collapse. Each day they removed buckets of earth and rubble, uncovering new chambers, new frescoes, new sarcophagi. What they discovered surpassed all expectations. Beneath St. Peter's Basilica lay an entire underground city, 22 mausoleums constructed along an ancient Roman road, akin to houses lining a street. The road ran east to west, with mausoleums flanking either side, packed tightly together, much like dwellings in a contemporary city. Each mausoleum belonged to a single family and was unique. One was adorned with frescoes depicting grapevines and birds, symbols of the afterlife. Another featured a mosaic floor with maritime motifs, dolphins, tritons, seahorses. A third boasted a stuccoed ceiling portraying Mercury, the conductor of souls to the underworld. Some mausoleums were pagan, adorned with images of Roman deities, while others were early Christian, bearing crosses and fish. They stood side by side, wall to wall, pagans and Christians coexisting peacefully in death, as they rarely did in life. Within the mausoleums, sarcophagi, urns containing ashes, inscriptions bearing names and dates, pottery and coins were preserved. The walls were covered in paintings of remarkable preservation. The dry air within the sealed chambers and the absence of light had protected the pigments from fading. Archaeologists described the moment of opening each new mausoleum as an experience bordering on the mystical. You squeeze through a narrow opening, your flashlight beam illuminates a wall, and before you is a face painted 2,000 years ago. Vibrant, as if the paint had dried only yesterday. A woman with the hairstyle of a Roman matron. A man in a toga inscribed Gaius Valerius Hermes, a freedman who lived 62 years. A child with a toy dog. These visages stared into the darkness of 15 centuries, unseen by any living human, and now they beheld light once more. For the archaeologists, it was a profound revelation, not merely a discovery, but an encounter. An encounter with individuals who had lived, loved, died, and been buried in the very spot where Christianity's most significant temple now stands. In one of the mausoleums, a sarcophagus was found containing the remains of a girl, approximately 10 to 12 years old. The lid bore the inscription, "Sweetest daughter who lived too short a life." Nearby lay a small clay doll with articulated limbs, a toy with which the girl was buried. For 2 millennia, this doll rested beside its owner in sealed darkness, preserved almost perfectly. When an archaeologist picked it up, the doll's limbs moved. The joints still functioned. This moment, according to the recollections of those involved in the excavation, was among the most emotionally charged of the entire 10-year endeavor. One fresco depicted Christ as the sun god driving a chariot. This is one of the earliest known representations of Christ in art, illustrating how early Christians adapted pagan imagery for their faith. Christ is not the bearded man with a halo we are accustomed to seeing, but a youth with rays emanating from his head, standing on a celestial chariot, much like Apollo or Helios. For art historians, this fresco is an invaluable testament to the transition from pagan Rome to Christian Rome. Yet, the primary objective of the excavations was not the frescoes or the mausoleums, but the tomb of the Apostle Peter. And here, the narrative takes on an almost detective-like turn. As archaeologists advanced along the subterranean street, they discovered that all the mausoleums were oriented towards a single point, the location directly beneath the basilica's main altar. Here, in a small area devoid of mausoleums, they found rough stonework, the remains of a monument referred to in ancient texts as the Trophy of Gaius. It was a simple structure, 2 niches in the wall, one above the other, separated by a marble slab. Second-century sources mentioned that the trophy stood above Peter's tomb, and archaeologists hoped to find the apostle's bones beneath it. Beneath the trophy, a grave was indeed found, an earthen cavity lined with bricks, but it was empty. The bones were missing. The initial reaction was profound disappointment. Pius, upon receiving the preliminary report, fell into despair. 10 years of clandestine excavations and an empty pit. However, one of the excavation participants, Margherita Guarducci, an Italian epigrapher and specialist in ancient inscriptions, noticed a detail others had overlooked. Adjacent to the Trophy of Gaius in the wall was another niche, small and covered by a marble tile. Inside, Guarducci discovered bones, wrapped in fabric with gold threads. The bones belonged to a male, approximately 60 to 70 years old, of robust build. Nearby were fragments of soil whose composition matched that of the empty grave beneath the trophy. Guarducci hypothesized that the bones were initially interred in the earthen grave and later, perhaps in the 2nd or 3rd century, exhumed and relocated to the niche in the wall, wrapped in expensive cloth. On the wall next to the niche, an inscription was scratched in Greek, which Guarducci deciphered as Petros enti, Peter here. Are these the remains of the Apostle Peter? The Vatican believes so. Pope Paul VI, in 1968, declared that the bones had been identified with compelling certainty. However, not all scholars concur. There is no definitive proof that these are indeed Peter's remains. No inscription on the bones, no DNA for comparison, no direct identifier. There are the bones of an elderly man in a costly wrapping, found near a location tradition associates with Peter. Is this a coincidence or evidence? The answer depends on whom you ask, a believer or a scientist. For 1 billion Catholics worldwide, this is the resting place of their church's founder. For skeptics, it is an intriguing but unprovable hypothesis. The truth, as is often the case, is literally buried with the one who could have confirmed it. The necropolis beneath St. Peter's Basilica was opened to visitors in the 1950s, but access remains strictly limited. Entry is by prior appointment only, in groups of no more than 12 people, accompanied by a Vatican guide. Reservations must be made months in advance, with queues extending for half a year. This is not a commercial restriction. The subterranean chambers are fragile, the air humid, and each visitor, with their breath, body heat, and skin bacteria, poses a threat to the 2,000-year-old frescoes. The Vatican navigates a delicate balance between the desire to showcase its greatest treasure to the world and the necessity of protecting it from that world. However, the necropolis beneath the basilica is not the Vatican's sole subterranean realm. There exists a second underworld, the catacombs, and they are far more extensive. The Roman catacombs are a network of underground tunnels and chambers carved into the soft volcanic tuff upon which Rome is built. They were used as burial sites, primarily by early Christians, who interred their dead in niches cut into the tunnel walls. Each niche, or loculus, accommodated a single body, laid horizontally and sealed with brick or marble slabs bearing the deceased's name. The tunnels descended layer upon layer, reaching increasing depths. Some catacombs boast up to 5 levels, descending 20 to 25 meters. The total length of the Roman catacombs exceeds 150 kilometers. They are estimated to contain the remains of anywhere from 500,000 to several million individuals. Walking through the catacombs is an experience that defies mere description, yet an attempt must be made. Narrow corridors, slightly taller than a person, carved into the porous tuff. Walls on either side are lined with continuous niches, stretching from floor to ceiling. Tier upon tier, like shelves in a library, except instead of books, they hold the dead. Most niches are empty. The bones have long since been removed or crumbled to dust. However, some remain sealed with their original tiles, bearing inscriptions like Helena in the world. Secundus, servant of God, rested on the 4th day before the calends of March. Names, dates, occasionally symbols. The fish, the anchor, a dove with an olive branch. Early Christians did not use the cross as a symbol. It was associated with ignominious execution. Instead, they used the fish, because the Greek word ichthys, fish, was an acronym for the phrase, Jesus Christ, God's Son, Savior. On the catacombs' walls, graffiti remains, not in the modern sense, but prayers and appeals to the deceased, scratched by visitors centuries ago. Peter and Paul, pray for Victor. Mother, forgive me. Remember, Lord, the soul of your servant Felix. These inscriptions are the voices of people who ventured into the subterranean darkness to speak with their departed loved ones. They stood in the gloom by the light of an oil lamp before the niche where someone they cherished lay, scratching words onto the wall that we read 1,500 years later. These words contain no theology, no doctrine, only grief, only love, only the hope of reunion after death. The Vatican oversees several catacombs, one of which is the Catacombs of St. Sebastian, located directly beneath the Appian Way, a few kilometers from St. Peter's Basilica. Yet beneath the Vatican itself, in addition to the necropolis, exist subterranean spaces about which little is known, the Vatican Grottos. This is a series of underground chapels and burial chambers situated between the basilica's floor and the necropolis's roof, used as a resting place for popes. Here lie dozens of pontiffs, from medieval times to the present. John Paul II was interred here in 2005, though his remains were later relocated to the basilica after his beatification. The grottos are open to visitors, but leave a less profound impression than the necropolis. They are relatively modern constructions, developed in the 15th and 16th centuries. There is a third subterranean level, one that is rarely mentioned, the Vatican Apostolic Archive. Not subterranean in the strictest sense. The archive is located partially on the surface and partially in basement levels. But its sheer scale is astonishing. 85 kilometers of shelving, containing documents spanning over 1,000 years of history, from the 7th century to the present day. Correspondence between popes and kings, emperors and presidents, records of the Inquisition, documents of excommunication. A letter from Henry VIII requesting a divorce, the refusal of which led to the English Reformation. A letter from Marie Antoinette from prison before her execution, records of Galileo's trial. Each of these documents represents a piece of world history, preserved in the Vatican's vaults. Among the most famous documents are Pope Leo X's bull Exsurge Domine of 1520, which threatened Martin Luther with excommunication and initiated the Reformation. A letter from Michelangelo complaining about delayed payment for his work in the Sistine Chapel, stating he was not paid on time and had to borrow money for paints. Documents from the trial of the Knights Templar, an order of knights devastated in the 14th century on charges of heresy, including interrogation protocols conducted under torture that are hair-raising to read. And perhaps the most intriguing document of all, the so-called Chinon parchment, discovered in the archive only in 2001. It is the record of a secret papal inquiry revealing that Pope Clement V had actually acquitted the Templars of heresy charges, but succumbed to pressure from the French king and permitted their destruction. For 700 years, this document lay in the archive, and for 700 years, the history of the Knights Templar was distorted because no one knew that the truth was held within the Vatican's basement. The word secret in the archive's name is the source of endless conspiracy theories. In reality, the Latin word secretum means not secret, but private or personal, indicating the archive is the property of the Pope. In 2019, the Vatican officially renamed it the Apostolic Archive to dispel its aura of mystery. However, the mystery persists, and not without reason. Access to the archive is restricted. Researchers must submit an application, justify their academic purpose, and receive approval. Even then, they are granted access only to the specific documents they have requested, and nothing more. Independent browsing of the shelves is not permitted. Photography is allowed, but not of everything. Certain sections of the archive are entirely off-limits, particularly documents pertaining to pontificates of the last 75 years. What do they contain? No one, except the Pope and a few trusted individuals, knows. Thus, beneath the Vatican lie three worlds: the necropolis, a pagan and early Christian city of the dead buried by Constantine, the grottos, a medieval and modern cemetery for popes, and the archive, the paper memory of a millennium. Three layers, three eras, three types of secrets. Below, the bones of individuals whose names have faded from marble slabs. In the middle, the sarcophagi of popes whose names are known to every Catholic. Above, documents whose contents are known only to God, and perhaps the Pope. When you stand in St. Peter's Square, amidst the throng of tourists under the scorching Italian sun, gazing at the basilica's facade, try to imagine what lies beneath your feet. Several meters down, the grottos, where individuals who guided the spiritual lives of 1 billion people for centuries rest in stone sarcophagi. Deeper still, a street paved with Roman stones 2,000 years ago, lined with the houses of the dead, adorned with frescoes, mosaics, and inscriptions. Even deeper, an earthen grave where, perhaps, lay a man who knew Jesus personally. The Vatican is the world's smallest nation, but it descends deeper than any other, and the deeper you dig, the more questions arise that remain unanswered. Whose bones lie in the niche behind the marble tile? What is written in the sealed folders of the Apostolic Archive? What other mausoleums await discovery underground? Unexcavated, untouched, silent, the Vatican stands upon its secrets in the most literal sense, and it is in no hurry to reveal them. It has eternity before it. And perhaps herein lies the principal lesson of the subterranean city beneath the Vatican. Not in the bones, nor the frescoes, nor the archival documents, nor the enigma of Peter's remains, but in the fact that each generation builds its future on the foundation of another's past, often without even realizing it. Constantine buried a pagan cemetery to construct a Christian temple. Michelangelo painted a ceiling above the bones of people whose names he did not know. Millions of tourists tread daily upon a square beneath which lies a city they have never heard of. We all stand upon the remnants of the past, in the most literal sense. Every metropolis, every edifice, every thoroughfare is erected upon a prior, more ancient, and profoundly quiet foundation.